Hello and welcome to another Python Game Making for Beginners tutorial. In this one we're going to be doing another project which is kind of similar to our last project that we did, which was the Guess the Number game. If you haven't done that one yet, be sure to go back and check it out. Also, if you need to get up to speed on your Python programming, be sure to go back to the beginning of the playlist to cover all of the basics. This will assume that you have at least some programming knowledge up through being able to define and call your own functions, as well as the basic syntax, using an IDE, and things like that I have covered all of that in this series, so be sure to go back and check out those videos if you haven't yet. Also, while you're here, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Maybe even hit the notification bell so you never miss one of my new videos. I've got lots of good stuff on the way, and very soon we're going to get into graphical games. This is actually going to be our last text-based game project before we get into visual graphical games. Alright, so this one is going to be kind of similar to our last one in that we were guessing a number, but in this one we're going to be guessing a word. It's going to be kind of similar to Hangman, except we're not actually going to draw the hangman on the screen. I might do that in a future video, but in this one it's just going to do like the last one. Whenever we're going to guess a letter, it's going to tell us if that letter was in the word, and it's going to show us kind of like a blacked out, or I'm going to use asterisks for all of the unknown words, and then it's going to put the words that we've guessed in the correct spots, and it's going to count how many guesses it takes to win the game. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit of what that looks like, because I've got a finished project over here. Give me just one moment, let me get that running. Alright, so here is our finished project. It tells us the length of the word, and then it's going to print out all of the blank letters and tells us what we've guessed. And then if you know the word, you can hit enter to solve it. So I'm just going to guess F. That one is not in there. E, nope. Or I'm sorry, that was D. E, we do have an E. Let's do O, I, A. And at any rate, you can just keep going like that, and I already know what this one is. So you can hit enter to solve, and this one is skyscraper. There we go. It tells us how many guesses we got, and we can either play again or hit no to exit the program. So that is our basic finished product that we're going to do. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with our code. So I'm going to open a new file in VS Code. We're going to do a Python project. There we go. And I already know that I'm going to use two imports. So we're going to import a function from our random module. So we're going to say from random import choice, just like we did in the last game. This is going to be a common one for lots of our games. We usually want some kind of a random element. Also, like the last game, we are going to do from sys import exit, and that's going to let us exit the program whenever we want. Alright, so after that, we need to go ahead and define four functions that we're going to use. So the first one is going to be game start. And this is where we're going to begin our game. It's where we're going to jump back to. It's going to be the function that we call if we want to restart the game after we win, and so on. All right, after that, we're going to need a function that prints the puzzle. So whenever we make a guess, this is going to print out like the stars with the letters in the correct places. We are also going to need a solve function for when the player attempts to solve the puzzle. Let's go ahead and pass that one. And then we are going to need a win function that we're going to call whenever the player wins the game, whenever they guess the correct word. And then we're going to give them the option to either restart or to exit the program. Alright, so under our game start function, we need to go ahead and define some variables. The first thing that we're going to need is a word list. So that is going to be a list of words that the program is going to select from that's going to be our answer word. And I've got a few programmed in here already. I've got like 6 or 7. Have fun with this. You can put as many or as few words as you want, as long or as short as you want. Obviously, longer words are going to be, generally speaking, more difficult to guess, but I'm just going to put in the words that I did. So I did algebra, computer. Also, you might want to be sure that you spell all of these 100% correctly, otherwise it might be a little bit frustrating for your players. Musician, skyscraper, secondary, and building. So as you can see, I'm putting all of these inside of a list. This is a list of strings. So each string is going to be a possible answer. After that, we're going to keep track of how many guesses our player has made. So we're going to store that in the guesses variable. We are going to keep track of a game over function. We're going to set that to false, and if the player wins the game, we're going to set it to true. Then we're going to do answer. Now this is where we're going to select the answer from this. Our player isn't going to know this from the beginning, but our program needs to know this. And we're going to do a random choice, and we're going to use this random function. In the last game we used rand range, and this one we're going to use one called choice. And choice is a function that chooses a random choice from a given list. And so we're going to do choice and then pass it the argument. That's going to be our list. Oops, that's going to be word list. There we go. So our answer, we're just going to select a random choice from word list. And remember, since we did from random import choice, we don't have to tell it it's from the random module. If we just did import random, you have to do random dot choice then word list. But again, we don't have to do that because of the way we imported it. After that, we need to know how long our answer is. So we're going to do word length equals, and we're going to use the len function. And that's going to, this will return the number of characters or the length of a string. So length parentheses answer, or len parentheses answer, is going to give us the length of our answer variable. All right. After that, we are going to need to keep track of what words our player has already guessed. So or what letters they've guessed, rather. So we're going to pass that. We're just going to put an empty list right now, and then we're going to add to that list as they guess. And the last thing that we're going to need is current guess, and we're going to pass that an empty string for the moment. So whenever they make a guess, we're just going to use that to keep track of what the guess is. We're going to add it to our guess list and do a couple of other things with it. All right, after that, we're going to go ahead and print our introduction and instruction to the player. So I'm going to do print welcome to, and I'm going to escape this double quote with a backslash. So that backslash prints. Guess the word. I'm going to escape another double quote. That's going to be our first line of text. We're going to print another line. It's going to be the goal of the game, the goal of the game. I think I worded this a little bit differently in my other one, but that's okay. The goal of the game is to guess the secret word by guessing letters one at a time. And then print, and this is where we're going to tell them the length of the word. And we're going to use our F formatted string. The word is word length letters long. And then we're going to set up our game loop. Let me fix that print spelling. There we go. All right, so we're going to set up a while loop. We're going to say while game over is equal to false. It's going to run this loop as long as our game over is false. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to call our print puzzle function, and it needs two arguments. It needs the answer, and it also needs the list of guessed letters. So let's go ahead and get this print puzzle function knocked out. So when we define it, we have to tell it what arguments it's going to be expecting. So it's going to be looking for answer and guessed. All right. And we're going to create a new local variable in here called word. All right, so after we've created our word variable, we're going to create a for loop. We're going to say for letter in answer. So for every letter in that answer, we want to check and see if that letter exists in that answer. So we're going to say if letter in guessed, so that's going to check our guessed list, our list of guessed answers. If that letter exists in there, then we're going to say word plus equals letter. That means we're just going to add it to the end of our word variable. Oops. Else, if it is not in our list of guessed letters, then we're just going to add an asterisk. And let's be sure we do that as a string as well. There we go. All right, so what this does, like I said, it's going to create an empty variable called, actually it's just an empty string right now. Then for every letter inside of our answer variable, it's going to see if that letter is in our list of guessed words. If it is, then it's going to add the word. If it isn't, it's going to add an asterisk. So every time we call this, it's going to go through every single letter that we've guessed so far, see if it's in that, and then add it to the end. And so that's going to print out our updated answer every single time. All right, let's go back up here. So we back into our main game loop. There we go. All right, so we've called the print puzzle function. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to ask the player for their input. So this is where we're going to use our current guess. So we're going to say current guess equals input. Please enter a letter. Or we'll also make it where they have to actually solve the puzzle if they know the answer. Or press enter to solve. And again, I always like to put a space there at the end of that just because it looks a little bit nicer. After they guess, we're going to add 1 to their guesses. Then we're going to say if current guess is equal to empty string. So that's going to evaluate to true if they just hit the enter key. That means that's going to, their input, their current guess is going to be an empty string. Then, let's see, we're going to check, and we'll go over this in just a moment. All right, I'm going to go back and explain what we just did. So we're going to call that solve function, and this is what's going to actually check to see if our player solved the puzzle correctly. And the cool thing about this one is we're going to use a return value, which I don't think we've done yet. That's always an option with functions, is you can set a function to return a certain value, then you can check to see what that value is with a conditional or with an if statement like we're about to do. You could even store it in a variable, and you can store a function in a variable, and when it calls it, then it will add the return value, or it will store the return value in that function. So we could say, you know, solution equals solve. I call that solve function, and then solution would be equal to either true or false, whatever it returns. All right, so let's go ahead and do this solve function. So we're going to pass it 1 variable. It is going to be our answer, the answer to the puzzle. And so, all right, we're going to create a new variable called solution guess. And we're going to take input from the player. So this is their guess for the solution. We're going to tell them to solve the puzzle. And then if solution guess is equal to answer, this is where our return value comes in. We're going to return true. Be sure that's capitalized. Else, we are going to print incorrect and return false. And if that returns true, let me go back up here. Yeah, if that returns true, then it's going to then we're going to win the game. However, if it returns false, then we're going to go to our else statement. So there we go. If, oh, let me find where we were. All right, so if solve answer is true, then we are going to win. If, now this, we're going to check to see if their current guess has already been guessed. So if their current guess is in that list of guessed letters, print, you already guessed that one. And we're going to do guesses minus equals 1. So that way they don't use a turn by guessing a letter that they already guessed. We added 1 back here, but if they already guessed that one, we're going to subtract 1, so they'll be equal. And then else guessed dot append current guess. So that's where we're going to add current guess to our list of guessed letters. And that, believe it or not, is all we have to do. That is pretty much it. Oh, no, wait, I take that back. I take that back. We have to do our win function. All right. So the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to do our win function. We're going to pass that guesses. So that is going to be the number of guesses that it took to guess the correct answer. So we're going to print, we're going to format that. You guessed the word in only guesses. There we go. So that'll tell them how many guesses it took to win the game. Then we're going to ask them if they want to play again. So we're going to say play again equals input. Would you like to play again? We'll give a y/n to see if they want to play again, to make sure they know that we're looking for either a y or an n. If play again is equal to y, we're just going to call game start. If play again is equal to n, we're going to print thanks for playing. And then we're going to exit the game by calling our exit function from the SYS, the sys module. All right, so if we run this right now, nothing will happen because all we did is define 4 functions, and we haven't actually called any of them yet. So in order to start our game at the very end of the program, we have to say game start. We're going to save that, and let's go ahead and run that and see if we have any errors. All right, the goal of the game is, oh, it's not printing my asterisks. Give me just one moment. Let me debug this, figure out what we did wrong. Oh, I figured out what I did. Some of you may have caught this, but in my print puzzle, I forgot to actually put my print statement at the end. So we are going to print word. And then we're going to print the list of letters that they've already guessed. This is actually very important. I was going to do something cool here. You have already guessed. And here we're going to use a built-in function called sorted. So inside of that variable call, inside of the curly brackets, we're going to say sorted. And then as an argument, we're going to pass our list of guessed numbers. And then we're going to end that curly bracket. So what this is going to do, that sorted function is going to sort everything in there by alphabetical order. Otherwise, it would just add all of our letters that we guessed onto one another with no sorting whatsoever. So whatever order you guessed them in, but by calling that sorted function, it's going to do everything in alphabetical order, so they'll be able to much easier see all of the letters that they've used so far. All right, let's save that and let's run that one more time. Actually, let me run it from the start. There we go. There we go. All right, the goal of the game is to guess the secret word by guessing letters one at a time. The word is 8 letters long. You have already guessed, and that's an empty list. Please enter a letter or press enter to solve. Let's do E. No E. O. Nope. I gotta have a... There really has got to be a vowel in there somewhere. I. That's interesting. All right, let's check that one more time and see what I did wrong. All right, and I caught it. Man, it is always something really dumb that I do. And I accidentally indented those L-ifs a little bit too far. So by one indentation level, usually if I have a mistake, it's something like that. So when we get to if current guess is equal to empty string, then it's going to say if solve answer is going to call that. If it's true, then we're going to win. If it's false, then it's going to jump down to the L-if. It's going to continue that if statement. This is called a nested if statement, by the way, where you have an if statement inside of an if statement. I don't think we've used those yet in this tutorial series, but basically it's going to check to see if this is true. If it is not, then it's going to check the next one and so on. If this is true, then it's going to check the next line. If that one's true, it's going to run this. If not, then it's going to proceed and continue checking the rest of these else and else if statements. All right, let's give that one more try. Third time's the charm, I hope. All right, here we go. Let me see. I spelled guessed wrong. I will fix that in a moment. So let's do E. There we go. Now it's working. Okay, so there's an E in there. Is there an O? There is also an O, I, A. I can't remember what words I used. Oh, I know what this one is. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to solve. So you'll notice that all of my letters are appearing in alphabetical order as they should. That word is secondary. Yes, and it worked, so I can either hit Y to go again or hit N to exit. There we go. All right, that is our finished Guess the Number game. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed that. I probably could do a little bit more debugging on that, but I'm pretty sure everything else in that is going to work correctly. So what are some ways that you can extend this? The obvious things are you could extend the word list to include more words. You could add a difficulty level. You could do a list of easy words, medium words, and hard words. Hard words could be more obscure words or longer words, words that are going to be more difficult to figure out, to guess. There's a little bit of error handling that we could do. Same as in this last one, it's going to expect a Y or an N when you want to play again. If you put in anything except for Y or N, then you're going to get an error. So you could have been in some error handling that way. You should be able to know enough in order to fix that on your own. If not, and you're curious about that, leave me a comment, and I will show you a video on exception handling and error handling. Same thing up here. If you put anything besides a letter in there, you might get some strange behavior. So you might want to do that, make it where they can only put letters in or hit the enter key to pass an empty string. So those are a couple of things that you could do. But if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. That really, really does help me out a lot. Share the video if you know of someone that might like this series. Feel free to pass it along. The more viewers, the better. And this is going to be the last one in our terminals, our terminal games that we just do via text. We're going to start getting into graphical games really soon. I'm going to produce a couple of videos on object-oriented programming, just the very basics of OOP that's going to help us when we start getting into Python Arcade. I've already got a couple of videos on that pretty much ready to go with just some minor editing to do, so I'm going to have those up as soon as possible. I'm going to do one on drawing with primitive shapes, and then after that we're going to do our first game, which is a 2D two-player space shooter. It's going to be a lot of fun, so definitely remember to join me for those. And with that, we will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.